Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AVSnap webinar. It is an introduction to AVSnap, so if you've been using it for a while, there may be some repetition here. But I think I wanted to bring up most important parts of AVSnap that you need to be aware of and know before you start doing designs. It's a foundational requirement so that you can succeed with AVSnap. Well, let's start from the most important thing that AVSnap offers, and that is the shortcuts. AVSnap has hundreds of shortcuts that can do many different things. Most of the shortcuts are single letter shortcuts. So if you have 26 letters, you have shortcuts assigned to every single letter on your keyboard. The escape key is probably my favorite. I have my index finger always on escape key when I work with AVSnap, so I can escape from any position I'm in. I always can go back to a known place. Page setup allows you to set up the page and configure the AVSnap desktop. So if I press P, you will see that you can set up page scale, page details, drawing capabilities, templates, presentation. So there's a lot of settings here. We're not going to go to every one of them, but it's important to know at least the tab number 1, because that's where you select the page size. And you can also select custom page. The next shortcut is a grid shortcut. So turning grid on and off by pressing G makes it very easy for you to work without a grid and then turn the grid back on. Fit page is my favorite shortcut because I zoom in and zoom out a lot during the design. So if I zoom out, I can press F to zoom right back in and fit the whole page into the screen. If I zoom in and I'm focused on something, I can press F again and zoom out very quickly. The left bracket and the right bracket, square brackets, are used to bring the objects up and down the Z layers. And I have one of the tabs here is discussing the Z layers. It's tab number 6, so we'll go over it in detail. The next one is basic objects that we're going to be using during design. And this is a cable object with the letter C, line object with letter L as a shortcut. So if I want to draw a cable, I press C, and I can start drawing cable. If I want to draw a rectangle, I press R, and I can start drawing rectangle. If I want to draw a circle, I press O, and I start drawing circle. And finally, if I want text, I can just press T, and I can enter. This is my text, and I have my text here. So that makes it very quickly and easy to get into the main objects that used in AVSnap. Finally, we have 2 more shortcuts. One is a show materials list and show cable list. So now that we have this, I usually have it printed. I know it by memory now, but it would be great to print it and just put next to you and start using these shortcuts. You may be asking about the line object. We're not going to cover it today. This is the legacy object that some old drawings may have. But if you press L right now, you're going to go into the cable object also. All right, what's the difference between the objects and symbols? And these are 2 main components of AVSnap. Objects are all of the primary elements of the design. So line, rectangle, circle, arc, dimension, grid, all of these are called objects. Objects are singular. That means if I draw a line, the line is an object. If I draw a rectangle, it's a singular. Now, symbols is a combination of objects. So when you combine objects together and convert it to symbol, that will have multiple objects in the same place. So like this is a symbol of the enclosure. So you can see it all travels together. It's a one piece. This is a symbol of a cable that it also been drawn and there's multiple objects inside of it. One of the things that distinguishes the symbol from the objects is that there's lots of additional properties. So if you double click on a symbol, you will have properties that define the symbol: model number, SKU number, description, manufacturer name. And there's lots of custom fields that you can enter, and the compliance settings if you need the compliance, FCC, UL, C. Whereas with line, which is an object, if you go to property, mainly it relates to the lines property: thickness, the text, font, arrows, bend points. Let's look at the selection process. How do we select either objects or symbols? So the easiest way to select it is just to click on it. When you click on it, you get the little handles here and you know that the object is selected. If you press Shift key and click on the next object, it will add additional selection. If you move your mouse from right to left, you will see that as soon as you touch the object, it gets selected. So you can just touch the objects and they get selected. Whereas if you move your mouse from left to right, you have to enclose the object inside your selection. If it's enclosed, then it's selected. If I want to select just these two rectangles, this one, and this one. If I wouldn't have this feature, then you can see I cannot just select them all. So I have to press the Shift key and select one and then select the other one. But with this type of selection from right to left, you just move your mouse and you select two of them. From the top, you move your mouse, you select two of them. So you have many situations when you're designing symbols or you're designing your project where you just need to have a selective selection, and right to left mouse allows you to do this. The next thing that is really important is to know how to size objects. Let's say right here in this drawing, I have a rectangle and I have them different sizes. So a lot of times when you rush, you just put rectangles quickly together. It's very easy to make rectangles the same size, just selecting all of the rectangles and using the button, select the smallest object. So when you click on it, it will adjust all objects to be the same to the smallest object. So if this was my smallest object, everything was adjusted to the smallest object. So if I want to go to largest object, then there's my largest object, and all of them are the same. So let's go ahead and select this, make the smallest one. On the left-hand side, you have alignment toolbar. And let's say we're going to center them first. They're on the same line horizontally. If you click distribute button, it will make it perfectly distributed between each other. Now, let me show you some other way, which is if you want to put objects next to each other. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert them all to the smallest ones, and then I'm going to stack them together. So I'm going to stack to the right. That means this is going to be my main object, and then everything's going to be stacked to the right of this main object. If I stack to the right, there it is. They're all next to each other. The only thing that's left for me to do is to adjust them so they align together and the alignment is completed. The next thing that we need to understand in AVSnap is Z-layers. Z-layers is the position of the object on the page. Z-layers is created automatically when you put objects on the page. So if I put first object, pink rectangle, and then red rectangle, and then blue rectangle, you can see that the pink is below, the red circle is above, and the green above. So in the Z layer, this is the lowest layer, and this is a higher level. And this line right here is on top of everything. You see, if as I move around, it's on top of everything. That's the highest level. You want to be able to move the Z layers up and down. The shortcut is right or left square brackets. So for example, if I take this rectangle, I can move it to the bottom of the Z stack by just pressing go to the bottom. I can take this object and say move it to the top, and it will move above everything else. Let's move now to the cable object and see if we can understand how cable object works. So cable object can be drawn just by pressing letter C as a shortcut and just clicking and dragging the line. Notice that there's always a beginning and the end of the cable object. The beginning is square. You can see there's a little square end of the cable, and the end of the cable is round. To create a bend, double click on the cable, and now you can move it around. Create another bend, and you can move this around. AVSnap has a feature called Draw Assist. The Draw Assist helps you to draw right angles on your cables effortlessly. Let's go ahead and turn it on. It's right here, Draw Assist. It's a little angle with 90 degrees inside. And when I select an object, you can see those ticks. And the ticks allows you to move this segment up and down, individual segments on the cable, right and left, depending on the angle. But the most important thing is when you click on the bend points, you will have a little tick mark that shows you where the bend point is gonna snap to. So if I move bend point over 45 degrees down, it will snap to the left. If I move it a little bit up, it will snap to the top. In this case, let's say I'm gonna snap to the top. I'm gonna add another snap point, and as you can see, we have little tick marks right here. There's a tick mark here, and there's a tick mark here. So if I bring the end of the cable outside of the tick mark, it tells me where it's gonna snap. So if I let go, it's gonna snap here. You don't have to worry about drawing your cables and worry whether they're straight or not, because you can use Draw Assist to quickly clean things up and adjust them the way you want it to go. One of the things that you can also do in AVSnap is to create round corners. The round corners are done by adjusting the setting right here, which says round. And when you move it, you can see that the corners of the cable become rounded. You can also have some corners rounded and some straight. So double clicking here on the bend point will give you a property box, and you can send bend point, turn it off, apply. So now you have a design where you have a right angle right here, very sharp, or you have a little rounded corners. I'm going to show you the double line feature. So if you have a cable, and let's say if you're drawing a wall or you need to show a cable that has double line, just go to the properties, pressing shortcut B as in boy. And right here you have a setting called double lines. It defaults to 0.1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this. And then I'm going to turn off the fill right now. Once I turn the fill off, you can see that you have a double line now. Double click anywhere to create connection. If you want to do a quick a wall or design like a little outline of your building or something, the double lines are really useful. In addition, you can also fill the area inside the cable. So if I'm going to come here, I'm going to go ahead and right click on fill area, and then I'm going to scroll through different colors. Let's look at those cables now. If we want to draw the cables, let's say HDMI cable or audio cable or video cable. And I have a couple of things that I can do. One of them, I can create arrows on each side of the line by pressing comma or period. You can see that I have now 2 arrows on each side. But in addition, you can adjust those arrows and go to the property by pressing shortcut B and just adjust the arrows right here, any size you want, and then you look and feel for your application. So let's go ahead and create another cable. And this time, I want to assign some properties to the cable. So now I'm going to treat it as a wire. I'm going to go to a different shortcut called K. And right here, you have a cable name. Cable name, let's say in this case, I can put HDMI. And the net name is going to be 1, HDMI 1. And I'm also going to put that it's 25 feet. Now you have this cable, and it's called HDMI 1. But it would be nice if I could see those nets right on the cable. If you put your mouse over the cable, you can see it says HDMI. So we're going to use comma or period shortcuts to adjust visibility of the nets. If I press comma 1 time, I get arrow. If I press 2nd time, I get arrow that goes inside. 3rd time, it displays my net right here with the arrow out, then displays the net with arrow in, and finally, it displays just the net. So this is on the beginning of the cable. If you press period, you can do the same thing on the end of the cable. The normal way of drawing cable, draw cable, and just continuously draw cable by putting your mouse pointer to the end and have it captured by the end of the cable. But in many cases, this is not convenient because you have to press mouse key every single time you need to draw a different segment on the cable. I like to use the continuous mode when I try to trace objects. I can use shortcut tab and go to continuous mode. In the continuous mode, once you draw the first segment, you can continue just clicking, and the cable will be automatically drawn. I'm going to press tab key again to get to the 2 bend mode. So move the mouse to the right. You can see there's 2 bends here, 1 bend here and 1 bend here. You have an option how you want to draw the 2 bend point cable. And finally, we have a cable which is single bend point. And again, when you go to the right, it goes this way. When you go up, it goes this way. So you can decide how you want to draw the cable. Okay. So that's a cable. That's as much as we're going to cover in the cable. But that should give you all the capabilities you need to design your first project. And we will do this first project as soon as we finished with this part of the presentation. So let's go ahead and go to rectangle object. Press letter R to draw a rectangle. Just move your mouse over round corners. Use your mouse wheel, and you can draw round corners in a rectangle. Every object has a text component to it. So in this case, I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to put a text component. This is my text. That will appear right in the center of the screen. If you want to adjust this position, you can use letter H to move it to the right, left, or center. Or you can use letter V to move it down above the rectangle, within the line of the rectangle, below, below the rectangle, within the lower line of the rectangle, and finally on the center. But also you notice if I press spacebar, which is a rotate object, the text rotates. And you may want to have a situation where you do not want to rotate the text. So press Properties and click Do Not Rotate Text. So if you do not rotate text, and when you turn the rectangle around it, the text will stay stationary. You can fill the object with different color the outline of the object, just a line color. You can change the thickness of the lines by adjusting the weight. The next object is a circle object. This one is a unique object because it has more than one shape. If I draw a circle by shortcut O, you can see I can do oval. Pressing Control key constrains the circle. But one of the things we can do, we can create polygons from the circle. Go to the properties and select Draw Polygon. You can put number of sides if you want a 6-side polygon. In some cases, you may want to have a star shape. The next thing you can do a cloud shape. So in this case, I'm going to do a circle cloud shape, and you can increase number of clouds. So if you need to highlight something, you can just put a little cloud over this. If you want the corners to be a little bit straighter so you can put more text inside, just change it to rectangle with clouds. And now in your drawing, you can highlight something that's important and make it red. The next object is the image object. In this case, I put an image of a girl on the screen. You can crop image object to any size. So just take a rectangle, put rectangle on the image, select the image so they're both selected, right click and say crop image, and your image will be cropped. If you want to crop eyes only, you can just go like this, right click and crop. So let's take another image, and let's say you just want to clear, you don't want to crop it, but you want to make a white area around it. So you can just select the rectangle, put in, select both objects, right click and say clear selection. In clear selection, you can select to clear outside, or you can select to clear on the inside. So if we do outside, this is what happens. So the other thing you can do is to adjust the image itself. So let's go to image adjust. You can decrease the saturation if you don't like the picture to be, for example, if you want to convert it to black and white, just click the button, it's convert to black and white. You can also adjust the brightness of the image, contrast, darkness, darker part of it, saturation and lightness. The other feature of the image object is that it has a built-in optical character recognition. So for example, if you have a text that's been scanned and you need to retype it, there's no reason to retype it from the beginning. Select the image, go to text properties by pressing letter T, and go to full editor. In full editor, you see there's OCR. Click OCR button, and the image will be translated to the text. Let's move on to a text object. Press letter T, it creates the object, and then you can just type the text. Text and just say OK. Of course, you can rotate this object. In this case, for example, I have also outlines. So you can take the text and right-click here and say set line color, and you'll have the outline of the text. You can also set the text properties, which is a horizontal padding or vertical padding. So horizontal padding, let's say I put 0.1 inches. When I apply, the text will move from the left-hand side. Two things you will notice here. You've probably seen me working with different editors. One is called a mini editor. So I'm going to go ahead and press T. This is called a full editor. And in many cases, you don't need a full editor. In many cases, you just need a mini editor to just get in, put a little bit of text and move on and hit enter. So to optimize your performance and make things much easier, you can enable this button by turning it off. You're saying, I don't want this to be default. And just say OK. So next time when you press letter T, you have a mini editor. With the mini editor, it's very easy to enter data very quickly. One of the things that you also have in the editor, you have short codes. If you want to know 12 of how many pages, you can put total pages, and you'll see that there's a 12 of 15. Next thing that you need to understand is how to manage the fonts. Font manager is located right here. So if I click here, you can go to font manager and you can select different fonts, and it will adjust the picture here. You can set the font to be favorite, and you can also set it as default. Finally, text increment. The text can be ended with a number, and whenever there's a number ended text, you can increment it automatically, or you can have individual letters incremented. Input 1, you can copy paste, and you can just increase. If you want to increment letters, it needs to be a single letter. So you can see, you can increment A, B, C, D. You can do the same thing with the small letters. We have only a few things left here. The backup is important, and you have auto backup settings. So go to page properties, go into the global, and right here it says backup every 2 minutes. The other button that I have here, which is backup now. Here's my project right here on the desktop. If I press backup now, you end up with a project with the date attached to it. If I do another backup now, it will place another one with B. But sometimes I may want to put a version number. So what you can do, backup now, right click on it, set up version number. So when I back up now, it will tell me version 1. If I back up again, it will tell me version 2. Finally, page management. As you can see, I have lots of tabs here. Pressing the multi-page views allows you to see those pages. You can move pages here to different locations. So I can take this page and move it to here. If I double click on the page, it goes right into the page. Within the tabs itself, you can move page here. Just click on the tab and you can see a little red bar, and you can move pages right within tab. Okay guys, everybody, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us, and you have a great Friday and have a great weekend.